Hey guys, it's Lauren here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm excited for this video because I'm reading some anticipated reads of 2020. And these are just some books that have been on my TBR for like a little while, and now I have all of them after waiting on hold in the library for weeks on end. I thought that time would never come, but they're finally in my grasp. So now I have 3 anticipated reads that I was gonna read for 2020, and they all have some sort of yellow in it. This is honestly purely coincidence, but since they all have some sort of yellow in it, I thought I'd just do a themed video. So I'm reading 3 anticipated reads that are yellow. Juliet Takes a Breath, Serpent and Dove, and Cersei. And yeah, I know that they will not let me down, so I'm really excited to read them. I think I'm gonna start with Juliet Takes a Breath because quite honestly, all of these books are on like a deadline right now. I've had them sitting on my shelf for like way too long, and Juliet Takes a Breath is due in 3 days. It's the one I honestly do have to finish the fastest. I'm gonna start reading it Juliet Takes a Breath today, and then I'll just figure out what I'm gonna read later on. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And we'll see how I like all of them. Hopefully none of them are letdowns because, I mean, they've been pretty hyped up. I just hope none of them are let down. That's pretty much all that's gonna happen. Let's just get right into the video. Okay, so I already started it. Obviously, in case it wasn't, already clear, I'm reading all of my books on my phone because if I'm checking out a book from the library, I'm currently in quarantine and I literally can't go anywhere. So I'm reading all ebooks on my handy little phone here. We love to see it. Anyways, so I'm already on the first part of Juliet Takes a Breath, and I already feel like, you know that feeling you get when you could tell like you're reading like a future favorite book? That's the feeling I get. And it probably started with the fact where they brought up the men's like uncomfortableness with the word pussy. And I was like, this is literally like, WAP. We've literally already seen this. I don't know. I'm really freaking happy that I'm already relating so much to the character right now. I'm kind of surprised because like it's starting off with a letter to this writer that Juliet wants to work with, and basically this takes place in 2003. I was surprised by that. That's a whole fucking 2 decades away. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I don't really know where the author's going with that, like with choosing this time period, but I'm still into it. But anyways, this letter is just really, like, I'm not even entirely through the letter, but I already see points where I connect. The protagonist bringing up things like men's uncomfortableness with basically women's sexuality and white feminism versus like bi-POC feminism and just like everything like that. They bring it up in the most humorous ways right now. I don't know, I already can see myself liking this character. Like, not many books can make me laugh. Like, if a character's trying to be funny, it's hard for me to like actually laugh, but this character is making me laugh. So I have high hopes. I'm honestly, like, I see myself really enjoying this book, so I'm really happy about that. But I just want to update you guys. It's literally only like the first page, like the first 2 pages basically, and I'm already liking this. Maybe I'll finish all of this tonight. We'll see, honestly. It's 314 pages. Can I do that? We'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to tell y'all because it's so good so far. It's so good. Okay. Let's get back to the book. Basically what happened was I have not updated you guys since I first started this book, and I'm now 61% of the way through, and I have many thoughts. For one, bro, Juliet, she's so awkward and anxious, and it's pretty cute. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cute. Basically, she already went to her internship with Harlow, who is like the author of, the Pussy book, and basically, Juliet imagined that Portland would be this kind of like lesbian oasis where she could like finally be herself and kind of explore more of her identity. And honestly, that is exactly what it is, which I was surprised about because I'm like, what's that place, like Portland, Oregon? I've never been to the West Coast really before. I like was at a layover there once, but I've never really like been there. And especially like Oregon, which is close to like Washington, I wasn't imagining it being this sort of like haven for like LGBTQ plus people or like any minority really, just because I don't know. It's just so, it seems so white, I was raised in DC and right now I'm in New York, so I'm used to being on the East Coast and having a community here in the East Coast that's like relatively large, but I've never imagined like actually finding sort of community for yourself if you're like a marginalized group in America, somewhere like Portland, Oregon. Harlow seems pretty nice. She's very much a hippie white woman. I didn't realize there was this sort of like hippie spiritual all in your mood kind of phase going on in like the early 2000s, but you know what? Fuck, I'm here for it. I was kind of surprised because there's this section where Fen, who is this asshole Filipino guy, there's this scene where Juliet didn't even know like what a lot of like common LGBTQ plus words mean now, and I honestly can't name examples, but there are a few of them. What is it called? Like she didn't know what poly was, she didn't know like a lot of things like that. I was surprised, but then I remembered that it took place like way back then, like almost 20 years ago. So I don't know, she just felt like a really safe space there. A lot of the characters there were incredibly interesting. I find like Harlow's kind of like personal relationship with Maxine and a few other people, I'm not going to go into it, but it's pretty great actually, and it's like interesting to see it. They kind of explore polygamy a bit in this book, and I just don't think I could personally do it. I'm a possessive bitch, and I just don't think I could do it. But the way that they explain it in the book and the way you kind of like see a relationship of that in the book is pretty interesting. I also like the way that Juliet is kind of, I guess, trying to come to terms and being more comfortable with her own body and like the way that she feels, because I feel like she's kind of insecure right now, but then again she's used to being in one setting and now she's in a completely different one, the opposite side of the country, trying to live up to this sort of image that Harlow has, that like really comfortable idol-like image. So that's kind of what Juliet is trying to do. They haven't really talked much about her internship, honestly, surprisingly. I honestly don't really know what her internship is. Like they explained it in the beginning of the book, but 60% of the way through I still barely understand what she's supposed to be doing. Another interesting thing is that this book is kind of written, it's not written the way that I'm used to. I'm not sure how to explain it other than to say that this book is written more like a stream of consciousness than like an essay. Books aren't really written like essays, but it's written like Juliet is almost just like experiencing stuff in her mind, it's immediately going on the page. And I'm not entirely sure if I like that style, but I mean, like, it makes for some entertaining content, because there are some times I literally just like laugh, like I'd be caught off guard and just start laughing in the book. But I don't know, it's a little hard to keep track of things when you're reading something that's more of a stream of consciousness as opposed to like something that you could easily follow. This book is alright so far. I'm not really connecting to the characters as much as I thought I would, or at least I'm not connected to the character as much as I wanted to. I'm sensing I'm probably going to give this book like a 4 out of 5 stars because it explores like a lot of just like being an LGBTQ plus person, specifically a lesbian person in, you know, the early 2000s, what that experience is like, which I find honestly incredibly interesting, because whenever I think of the early 2000s I think of like some strange far off alien land, and it's like because like the clothes, guys. I'm not sure if the author decided to write that way because that was basically her experience, if this book is like close to the author, but I'm just not personally connecting with the book, but that's obvious because I'm straight. So that's obvious, but I do appreciate the way it's written. There's a lot of good humor in here, and honestly it's just nice to see a person exploring parts of their identity, because some parts of this book really resound with me. I'm gonna finish this hopefully before the end of the day, and then I'm gonna get started on Serpent and Dove, which I've heard many interesting things about, so I'll catch you guys when I finish this. Okay, so I finished reading Juliet Takes a Breath, and honestly my mind is blown, because like you guys saw, like I was at like 60% of the way through the book and I was almost questioning whether or not I'd actually end up liking it by the end. I started reading the book and thought it'd probably be one of my favorite books of all time, and then I started reading it and it had all this weird hippie stuff and a lot of probably like LGBTQ plus things that I couldn't necessarily connect with and I wasn't well educated on, which I'll probably get on after this because I still have a lot to learn, but I couldn't connect to it as much because of all the hippie stuff and like it being the early 2000s and just a lot of the protagonist not growing so much in the beginning. But by like part 3 and beyond, the rest of the book, it was amazing. And it probably had to do with a lot of things. For one, the protagonist develops in a way that's like beautiful, it's like blooming into a butterfly. For another, I felt like we finally hit the climax of the book, and it was the part that I wasn't expecting, though admittedly I probably should have seen it coming from the beginning of the book. I'm trying not to spoil anything here, so I'm not getting into specifics, but there's just so much brought in. There is some, not just like addressing like feminism, but like feminism isn't, there is no universal thing for feminism, you know, there's multiple facets to it, and you can't just, it's not easy just to connect just because of this one thing. There's multiple facets to feminism that includes race, that includes just like where you come from, everything like that. There's multiple sides to it, and judging it fully based on this honestly connects back to JKR and her like foolishness of trans people, but it's like something as complex as feminism, just one physical part of your body, and like almost ignoring the other facets to it that involve race, that involve what you feel like spiritually. That's just not a good way of defining feminism. It's just, I don't know, I connected so much to, I guess you could say, the second half, the last third of the book. It just, that last third of the book really sold the book for me. It was so good. Like, it was so, I can't tell you guys how good it was. So good. Mostly because of the character growth, because of the confrontation between characters. Fen never came back. He was kind of a random character, but you know what? I was fine with that because Maxine was out here showing out, and there's just a lot of good stuff. I give it a 4.7 out of 5 because the 0.3 gone just because like the first half or so of the book, I kind of felt uncertain. I wasn't really connecting with the characters and I wasn't entirely sure where the plot was going. But by the last part of the book, amazing. I couldn't give it a 5 out of 5 stars, but 4.7 out of 5 for sure. It was amazing. Guys, go read it if you haven't yet. It's freaking fantastic. And honestly, I feel like I haven't even absorbed all of the book yet. You know, I feel like I have to read it a second time, but I don't own it and I literally just borrowed it from the library and it's supposed to return in a few hours, so I don't really have time to reread it. Yeah, no, but it was amazing. It was amazing. But now I'm done with Juliet Takes a Breath, and now we're gonna move on to Serpent and Dove. I've heard many mixed reviews. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've also heard a lot of not so good things about it. I've heard some strange things about, you know, like some weird religious order and like witches, and I don't know. It's just a lot of confusing stuff, but I am ready to get into it. It has been on my TBR for a while now, and even though I've heard some really bad things about it and some like good things about it, I'm excited to get into it and just share my reaction with you guys. So we're gonna get into that. And yeah, but we started off this video good, so that's good. Okay, so I started reading Serpent and Dove, and honestly, I'm actually really surprised. I don't know what I was expecting, but I heard some weird things about it, especially like in the sexual aspect, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be like some garbage novel, which honestly, biased, but yeah, that's what I was thinking going into this, but it turned out to be like way better than I imagined. It's written really well. Like, I'm already 10% of the way through the book, and this is like, how do I state this? It's like really hard for a book to like grasp my attention and make me almost like hesitant to put it down, especially like lately. Like, I haven't read a book like that in a while, but Serpent and Dove has done that for me. So I'm really hoping right now that it doesn't let me down, because actually I'm really enjoying it so far. It seems pretty interesting, especially the aspect of there being like two like different kind of trinities. I'm Catholic, so it's kind of interesting how all the witches are women. I don't know, maybe because I'm used to the Harry Potter universe, but it's kind of interesting how all of the witches are women, and it's really just like pulling out all of the sexism into this society, so that's interesting to see. It's kind of weird. It's weird how they refer to things. I wasn't expecting like the French nuances. I'm not sure exactly where this book takes place, but I wasn't expecting like just like random French words to come out, like chose, bonjour, mademoiselle, chérie.
Literally me just flexing the few years I've taken in French. Don't mind me.
You know, all French things. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting like instant jump into the brothels and like, I don't know, like sexual attraction. I wasn't expecting that. I'm enjoying it though. Also, I was like confused. In the beginning I thought Lou was a man because I didn't read the description. Lou's a woman, so there's that. But I don't know. I just want to say I'm enjoying it. Both of the characters seem incredibly interesting to read. Reed already is getting on my nerves. That's not really a surprise. Lou interests me. Yeah, no, I'm just really into it right now. It was really hard for me to put down my phone, but I have school today, so I want to get actual work done. But I will be back to reading this, and I'll probably let you know when something like really interesting happens. Right now, Lou and Reed have already met, but they don't know they've met yet. Lou is disguised as a man, but Reed knows that she wasn't a man. So now they're probably gonna meet again, and I know like they end up having to be married, so I'm really excited for that. So I'm gonna let you guys know a reaction to that. That's what's happening. I'll update you guys in a bit. Right, so I really wanted to update you guys while I was like, you know, reading Serpent and Dove, but like it's been crazy. Like, I'm doing this vlog as I'm going through like my first week and like first just like few weeks in NYU classes, so please excuse me if I seem a little exhausted or any of that, but I managed to finish it in time before the loan was due, because like literally all of my books have been due as soon as I finished them. So I finished Serpent and Dove the day it was due, and I was in like I finished it in about 3 days, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was really good. I think I'll probably end up being in one of my best books of 2020 video at the end of the year. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I don't know why, because I watched Read with Sydney, like her channel. I like watched the video for that book and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna fucking read this, because at first it was on everyone's like highly anticipated like reads list for 2019, I believe. I'm still like only like a year into about booktube, so forgive me if I don't remember the exact date, but I remember like having it on my TBR and then like seeing a few like bad reviews or something, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna read this now. Besides to read it anyway for like kicks and giggles, because I was like, you know what, I'll just like read it, and if it's like a hate vlog, then I don't mind hate vlogs, but I ended up like really fucking liking this book. Like, it had, obviously there's fantasy elements in it, but the thing I probably liked most was the romance. It probably has to do with the fact that like I really like Lou. Like, I just really enjoy her character. I still feel like we don't really know that much about her. That's one weakness I would say about the book, is that even though like I enjoyed it a lot, I feel like the characters weren't as developed as I would have liked it to be. Then again, it is a series. I wanted to know a little bit more about like why people are the way they are, especially like Lou. But I think Lou's past was purposely supposed to be a mystery, so that's the reason. I just wanted to know why she felt the need to be as rambunctious as she is and everything like that. So, but I did really enjoy her character. She was definitely one of my favorites of the book. Reed, I did not like him. I did not like him at first, but he like started to grow on me the more, not the sirens. I live right by a fire station, so just like, you know. Alright, but anyway, so he kind of got on my nerves at first. I hate pretentious people. Like, it was a very like sexist society. Obviously it felt like everything was kind of being reverted backwards, and like Reed was kind of like leading that. So Reed got on my nerves a little. He seemed like a very pretentious asshole, and I was like, am I really supposed to end up liking this guy and rooting for him to be with like Lou? Because I thought Lou deserved better. But then he started to get better. He did like humanly decent things, like protecting her from being like beaten by the archbishop, and I was like, all right, cool. He seems like a decent guy, but I'm still not sure if I'm like rooting for him to be with my good sis. But then, you know, he started like growing on me. I don't know, I can't tell exactly what it was, but he started doing like these little gestures and everything like that. It was the way he reacted to Lou that kind of made me like him, and discovering his past and everything. I was like, okay, I can deal with this. You know, he seems like a decent guy. He's decent. Their romance is literally the most epic thing to watch. I don't know why. I really freaking enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting marriage. I haven't read a lot of books where like the characters end up getting married in the book. Like, it's either the couple's like already married or like they're just like dating, you know, it's like contemporary YA, things like that. But I've never read a story where like the two main characters have to get married. So it was really interesting in that sense. I actually really liked it. Their relationship seemed relatively healthy considering, despite, you know, like the secrets both of them had, especially Lou. I really liked Answell's character. He was so cute. I enjoy having like a kid. I felt like Reed and Lou were basically like his parents. So I really enjoyed his character. Literally just everything was amazing. Like, the plot was amazing. I wasn't expecting any of that at all, even though I feel like the plot probably isn't as intricate as a few other books that I've read, but because like the character interactions were so good, I don't really mind it that much. I really enjoyed it, and honestly I'm like a sucker for romance, and that's what the majority of this book was, so I ended up really enjoying it. And I wanted to read it a second time, but again, like, I finished it by the time the book was due, so I can't read it again. I'm just sad. I enjoyed it a lot, in case it wasn't obvious, and honestly I couldn't put the book down. Now I'm gonna start reading Cersei. I only have about 3 days to read it, so I really need to like get on that, but I just went to update you guys. Obviously I highly recommend it, so I need to get to work on something else, and then eventually I'll start reading Cersei, and I'll let you guys know when I start doing that. So yeah, I'll see you guys when I see you. Hey guys, I'm about 30% of the way through Cersei, and these are my thoughts so far. I will say this, it hasn't quite gripped me in the same way that Juliet Takes a Breath and Serpent and Dove have from the beginning, where it has like a really gripping first line, and that just makes me like instantly like intrigued with the story. It doesn't have that, but I am still interested because, again, I'm like, not to brag or nothing, but I am a huge Percy Jackson fan, so I am still interested in the story just because it involves so much of the Greek gods. For some reason I had it in my head that this would be like a more modern take on like Cersei, but it's actually just like basically a retelling of the myth, but it's still told in like the same kind of sense, I guess, like the same time as that. So it's like more of just like a retelling of the same story, just like written by that author. So I'm not sure if like, I haven't like read any specific myths about Cersei. Maybe this entire story is like made up in order to honor that goddess, because I honestly have never, like, I heard of her obviously from Percy Jackson, but I never like really heard of any specific myths involving Cersei, except for maybe like Perseus or whatever. But so it's kind of just interesting seeing like a more specific story through her. And it's also interesting because the story is told like retroactively, like it's almost like the narrator of the story is Cersei, and she's basically telling it from a future perspective, so she's telling it starting like from the past, but it's told by her future self. So I find that really interesting. It's interesting seeing like how like this really meek, like almost like nobody, like comes from being like just a standard nymph with literally no powers and becomes this really like fearsome goddess. And kind of just still, we haven't really reached any like serious conflict yet, and I know there's supposed to be conflict between Cersei's relationship with humans and the gods, and I think the gods seek to destroy her at some point from what I got from the synopsis. But yeah, I'm still waiting for that stuff to happen. Right now it's just the lead up. Cersei has been exiled to this island. which starts with an A. I don't really remember the name of it, but she's been exiled to this island by Zeus and her father for using witchcraft against this nymph, who was kind of a bitch. The girl had it coming, but you know, they still had to punish her for using magic, because magic is like a new thing in this book. And that's what's going on there. Oh, really fun thing just happened. I think the creation of the Minotaur happened, and while the scene was pretty gruesome and honestly kind of hilarious, I just enjoyed having that little, you know, dump in there. Still, plot hasn't really picked up yet, so I'll update you guys when like something like really spicy happens, but so far just like the Minotaur is born. Cersei is building up her powers though. She is getting powerful, so that's good to see. It's just nice seeing her transition from such like a weakling to like a really powerful witch. I think it's gonna be an interesting story, but as of right now I'm kind of just feeling like mostly passive. I don't think it's a bad story, I don't think it's badly written, but it's definitely written in like an oldish kind of way, which is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure it was published last year. So it's interesting how they managed to mimic the style of an epic. I wonder how they thought about that writing process. I'll let you know when conflict starts to pick up.
Hey guys, it's me. So I have some explaining to do. So I reached about like the middle of the book where Cersei meets Odysseus, and they, you know, they're like fucking or something for a good portion of the book, but I never ended up actually finishing it, you see, because as I said throughout the entirety of the book, I was like reading all of these books on a deadline, and it kind of returned before I could finish it. So yeah, that's my bad. I'm sorry. To be honest though, I wasn't really vibing with it that much from the beginning anyway. I may or may not end up finishing it later or something, you know, like for the fun of it, you know, just because like leaving it off at the middle was kind of it's kind of a dick move. I apologize for that. I don't know what my opinion would have been, and I guess we'll never know. I really enjoy Juliet Takes a Breath and Serpent and Dove. I highly recommend those two. Cersei, y'all already know. So anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, you should like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on my medias. They are all linked down below, and I will see you guys later.